Now this might sound a little bit crazy, but every once in a while I want to take a step back and build something new. And today I want to talk about part one, because this might take, well, for sure, it's going to take more than one part. How to build an electric bike with infinite range. What do I mean by infinite range? How could that be possible? Now, let's do a very ugly sketch of a bicycle here. His arms bend the wrong way. It's okay. None of this matters. Okay? You need a certain amount of power in this wheel to propel this bike forward. Now, before we jump over to the rest of the whiteboard, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I keep checking every video, and again, more and more people are watching, but still only about 15% of you are actually subscribed to my channel. So if you have any interest in electric bikes whatsoever, make sure you are subscribed to Bolton e-bikes. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think about the video and how you think this is going to turn out. So I did a test outside with my fat bike. It might take 1,000 watts to accelerate at a certain rate. It might take 1,000 watts to maintain a certain speed. Before we get into how much power it took to move this bike, what do I mean by infinite range? Let's set some parameters here. Let's say I want to maintain a speed of 20 miles per hour. Now, why did I pick 20 miles an hour? Is that some sort of arbitrary number? The reason I picked 20 miles an hour is because that is the Class 2 e-bike maximum speed limit. Now, if you have a bike with a theoretical infinite range, you would probably want to use a throttle and not have to pedal the entire time. So if we're using a throttle, that limits us to a Class 2 bike. We want to maintain that for as long as we possibly can, possibly forever. So let's figure out how much power does it even take to move a bike. So what I did is I did a few speed runs, but not top speed runs, a few efficiency speed runs with my 1,000 watt fat bike. And I found that to maintain 20 miles an hour on a fat bike took about 500 watts, which is a lot of power. Now, for those of you wondering how I came to this conclusion or how I tested this bike, basically what I did is I went full throttle, no pedaling. So this is full throttle, no pedaling. What I did was get in the higher gear, so I was going slightly more than 20 miles an hour, and then I would shift down into a lower gear, and I kept shifting down until the RPMs of the motor basically maxed out to where the bike would do about 20 miles an hour. Now let's do some quick math. Let's say you have a 48 volt, 10 amp hour battery. That's going to be 480 watt hours. That means if we're going 20 miles an hour at 500 watts, our battery will last less than 1 hour. So we only have enough power to go for an hour or about 20 miles. Now, like I said, infinite range. Don't worry, stick with me here. How do we get this to last further? Well, we can go with a bigger battery, of course. We could go with a 1,000 watt hour battery, and then we would go roughly twice as far. So then we would get 40 miles. We're assuming no wind, and we're assuming the ground is flat. So we're not going up hills for this experiment. Obviously, a fat bike is not the right choice for going the longest distance. How do we get this amount of power down? Now, if you want to get really fancy, there are some calculators online. There's so much math that has been done to figure out how much power you need to move a bicycle. There's aerodynamic drag. There's all sorts of things. So what is the most efficient thing that is legally a Class 2 e-bike? All right, so now if we go to a Velo Mobile, the most efficient models I've found can actually maintain speeds around 20 miles an hour with less than 100 watts. So now instead of 500 watts, we only need 100 watts. Now this is the most efficient type of Velo Mobile. These are extraordinarily expensive. You're talking $10,000 or more. Now, do I have one of those? No. But do I have a Velo Mobile? Yes. But it's not quite as efficient as those. It is an older model, and based on my estimations, I'm thinking it's going to take somewhere around 150 watts. Now, a 1,000 watt hour battery in a Velo Mobile like this could possibly go for more than 6 hours. Instead of 40 miles, maybe 120 miles. This is not the biggest battery that I've ever put on an e-bike. In fact, some of the Bolton e-bikes, I have installed a 1.5 kilowatt hour. Now we're up to maybe 180 miles before the battery dies. Much, much further. Now, this isn't infinite by any means. We need 150 watts of power to feed into this Velo Mobile or more to keep a large battery like this going. How do we do that? How do we charge a moving bicycle that's traveling down the road? Some of you might be thinking solar, in which case you'd be right. So this is a 20-watt solar panel. Possibly could fit on the back rack of a bicycle. It's bigger than most racks. It would be hanging off to the sides, it'd be hanging off the back, and it's only 20 watts. So this isn't gonna do much of anything. This will work to charge the bike. I'm not gonna get into detail on this specific setup yet, but this mysterious black box I have right here is absolutely amazing. I've already tested this a little bit. I'm gonna go into this in another video specific to solar charging electric bikes, so stay tuned for that one. But here is a 12-volt solar panel. This is a lovely little magic box that is 96 to 99% efficient. That is crazy efficient. It actually takes 12 volts from this 12-volt solar panel, converts that to a very precise 54 volts for charging lithium-ion batteries. We'll get to that later. What I wanted to point out is that this is only 20 watts, and even for a Velo Mobile, which is extremely aerodynamic, we need 150 watts of power to have, in theory, an infinite range during the day. So I have to add that to my parameters. Now I've done the math. Here's where it gets awesome. There's a company out there that makes a panel that's approximately 5 inches by 5 inches square. It's very efficient, very thin, very lightweight, and it's about 3.5 watts of power. Now I've measured the Velo Mobile that I have, and with this square, I can fit not just the 150 watts required, about 300 watts of solar panels onto this road legal bicycle. Now, not all of those panels are going to be in the sun. I'm sitting in here like a little alien. It's not possible for all of them to be in the sun at the same time. If the sun is coming from this way, then I'm only going to get, maybe half or 2/3 of the panels in the sun. These ones are getting let's just say nothing, 0. But if I can fit 300 watts of panels on the entire vehicle, if I can get anywhere from half to maybe 2/3, maybe some of the panels on top of power, so between 150 to 200 watts, that's enough to sustain 20 miles an hour and charge up whatever size battery I decide to have on board. So that means I could go all day long with the sun, and then if it gets dark or cloudy, I have whatever range is left in my battery. Now, if we're using the calculation of 1500 watt hours, I said 180 miles, that's quite a ways. So let's say we're going middle of the summer and we only have so many hours at night. Really, I could increase the size of this battery to whatever size it takes to get me all the way through the night and into the next day. I want to see what you guys think about that. So comment below, tell me if, one, if you'd like to see this actually built, and two, if you think I can succeed making a Velo Mobile, which is going to be a legal Class 2 e-bike, have basically an infinite range during daylight hours, and if we choose to do so, increase the battery to something larger than 1.5 kilowatts. What exact size that would be, we don't know, but so you could even go through the entire nighttime and into the next day. All of this is assuming, like I said, throttle only. This isn't assuming you're even pedaling at all. So the more you pedal, the more that's going to help. Obviously, then it's totally possible. The average e-bike charger that comes with your electric bike is a 100 watt charger. They're usually like a 48 volt, 2 amp charger. They're only charging at 100 watts. So even in a, what I would consider a worst case scenario, we are looking at a vehicle, it would be like having your charger plugged into the wall all the time. We're plugged into the sun over here, but I think this is going to be a really good test if we get all of this done to test this piece of the puzzle right here. Once again, that's that little black box that I showed earlier. I hope that information was somewhat enlightening for you. I look forward to getting to the actual build process of this electric, sun-powered, infinite range Velo Mobile. Now that we've kind of done the math and gone through the process and that it should work on paper, in the next video in this series, we're going to see if it actually works. Now, this isn't going to be the next video that comes out on YouTube. This is going to take a little bit of time, so please be patient, but don't worry, it is coming. Once again, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I appreciate everyone for watching, and I'll be back again next Thursday.